First of all, we will discuss some characteristics of forex business, the environment of forex business in which remittances take place, and then we will go to liberalized remittance scheme. So when I say forex or forex transaction, it means the transaction will be involving replacement of one currency for another, exchange of one currency for another. Forex transaction will involve always two currencies. One will be, in our remittance case, one will be local currency, another will be foreign currency. Then forex transaction will always involve two parties, which normally happens in a transaction, but the two parties will be, one will be resident and the other will be non-resident. What is to be emphasized here is that forex transaction between two residents is not allowed, and no forex is to be released for any kind of transaction between two residents. Since the two parties will be resident and non-resident, there will be inflow and outflow of funds that will be cross-border. Means in forex transaction, the transaction will involve cross-border inflow or outflow of funds, currency, money. And this brings lot of importance to forex transaction for any economy, for any country, because the transaction is happening cross border, therefore too much precaution is ensured, and it is a highly regulated transaction or business for banks. Banks are already under Banking Regulation Act, are being governed, being regulated. Another regulation comes into picture, that is Foreign Exchange Management Act. All forex transactions have to conform to Foreign Exchange Management Act. That is the legal, that act provides legal framework for regulation of forex transaction. But act will itself not regulate. There should be regulating agency. And in case of forex transaction, there are two regulating agencies. They are Reserve Bank of India and Government of India. Foreign Exchange Management Act 1999 empowers Reserve Bank of India and Government of India to enact rules and regulations to regulate forex transactions. There are number of rules and regulations based on Foreign Exchange Management Act. Please remember, Foreign Exchange Management Act only gives a legal framework for regulation. The rules and regulations are separate from Foreign Exchange Management Act, and the agency to regulate the forex transaction is Reserve Bank of India and Government of India. The responsibility of both the agencies are clearly defined, and they frame rules and regulations in their own areas. All forex transaction can be categorized into either capital account transaction or current account transaction. Capital account transaction will be restricted transactions, current account transactions will be allowed. Means all current account transactions are allowed unless and until they are restricted somewhere by some regulation, and all capital account transactions will be allowed unless and until they are allowed somewhere with some specific rules and regulations. Just hold on, give me a minute. So what is capital account transaction? So what is capital account transaction and what is current account transaction, we'll discuss in detail, because understanding of this is very, very important if we are dealing in foreign exchange transactions. Now let us see the legal framework and rules regulations which are effective for regulating forex transaction, and it has a long history. Started with Defense of India Rules 1939, which was brought in due to requirement under World War II situations. When we got independence, Foreign Exchange Regulation Act 1947 came into picture. It was enacted, and in 1973 this Act 47 Act was replaced by 1973 Act. Then a major departure was made in 1999 when the Foreign Exchange Regulation Act was replaced by Foreign Exchange Management Act. And if you look at the nomenclature, there is a one word difference, that is management is replacing regulation. But this replacement, this one change has lot of meaning. The meaning is that now Foreign Exchange Management Act is not a restrictive act, it is an enabling act. It doesn't curb, it doesn't restrict the uses of foreign exchange. It facilitates a utilization of foreign exchange. But since I told you that foreign exchange is a commodity for any country, and important commodity, sensitive commodity, therefore its transactions are regulated. As I told you that Foreign Exchange Management Act is a facilitating act. Its objective doesn't include any restrictions on the uses of foreign exchange. Rather, its objectives are to facilitate external trade. When I say external trade, it means export and import and other kind of transactions cross border. It has an objective to encourage import and export from India to India, and it also ensures development of maintenance of foreign exchange market, because unless and until you have a robust foreign exchange market, easy availability of foreign exchange will not be there, and correct pricing of the foreign exchange will not be there. To ensure the good pricing, market driven pricing, and to ensure easy availability of foreign exchange, this act has an objective to make the foreign exchange market robust and sound. And the second objective I told you is to facilitate external trade so that India makes a mark in international trade. This act is applicable in whole of India, means every nook and corner, there is no exceptions, everywhere it is applicable. So we discussed that all forex transactions can be classified into two categories: capital account transactions and current account transaction. What is capital account transaction? Capital account transaction are those transactions which have the potential capability to alter the assets and liabilities, including contingent liability of the parties who are involved in the transaction. So the definition says a transaction which alters assets and liabilities including contingent liability of the persons involved in the transaction. Now there will be two persons involved. One is the resident, the second is non-resident. In case of resident, the assets and liability which are getting altered, which are getting affected, should be outside India. Means if a resident is doing a forex transaction and if his assets and liabilities which are outside India gets altered, gets affected, then it should be a capital account transaction. If a non-resident is indulging into a forex transaction with a resident in India, and if the non-resident's assets liability in India is getting affected, getting altered, then it will be treated as capital account transaction. When I say contingent liabilities, all liabilities which are in contingent in nature, like bank guarantee, LC, they will come into picture, but please remember LC of short term will not be capital account transaction, but LCs involving deferred payment guarantees, where payment will be made over a longer period, more than 3 years, then it will be treated as capital account transaction. So what is capital account? So now rest the current account transaction. What is current account transaction? To define current account transaction, we look into the books and acts and we do not find any definition of current account transaction. So what to do? The Foreign Exchange Management Act says that if you want to judge the nature of any transaction which is of foreign exchange, then you will have to use the definition of capital account transaction which has been provided in the Foreign Exchange Management Act. Means if you want to decide whether any transaction is a capital account transaction or current account transaction, you will have to use the definition of capital account transaction. You will have to test the transaction on the definition which is given for capital account transaction. If it fits into the capital account transaction definition, it will be treated as capital account transaction. If it doesn't fit, then it will be treated as current account transaction, and the same is narrated in Foreign Exchange Management Act, which says that a transaction other than a capital account transaction will be treated as current account transaction. So definition of only capital account transaction is available in the Foreign Exchange Management Act. But to simplify the understanding, the Act itself gives some examples of current account transactions, and these examples are payment due in connection with foreign trade, business services, short-term banking and credit facilities. Banking and credit facilities short-term, when I say, it means up to 3 years. Interest on loans and net income from investment. If somebody has made investment outside India, if he is earning interest or if he is earning dividend, all those are current account transaction. If somebody from outside India, a non-resident, has invested in India, if he is earning interest, loans, rent, all those are treated as current account transaction. Expenses on travel, education, medical care, maintenance of family outside means any kind of regular expenditures will be treated as current account transaction. Another aspect of restriction is on who will deal in foreign exchange. When I say deal in, means who can do the business of foreign exchange. When I say business of foreign exchange, means who is authorized to sell and purchase both foreign exchange. Sell and purchase both. So the regulation says that only authorized persons can do the business, deal in foreign exchange. And who are the authorized persons? any person who has been authorized by Reserve Bank of India under Section 10 of the Foreign Exchange Management Act, because Foreign Exchange Management Act empowers Reserve Bank of India to authorize those persons who can undertake foreign exchange business. Now understand that the term which has been used for this is authorized person, and here authorized persons means both natural person and legal person. Natural person means individuals and legal person means entity, means both can be authorized, maybe individuals, maybe organizations, entities. Other residents who want to do the forex transactions, they will have to do the transactions with these authorized persons. Now these authorized persons can be broadly classified into three categories: authorized dealers, money changers, and offshore banking units. Authorized dealers are of the highest category of authorized persons. They are empowered to do all sorts of transactions. Money changers can do only money changing activities. Their role is restricted. Offshore banking units are those authorized persons who are located in offshore units, offshore areas, and the best example will be special economic zones where these OBUs are located. If you want practical example, then the authorized persons who are located in gift cities, especially gift city Gandhinagar, Ahmedabad, these authorized persons are known as offshore banking units. But offshore banking units are regulated with a different kind of regulation. Of course, regulation is by Reserve Bank of India only. Again, these authorized persons like authorized dealers, money changers, and offshore banking units are again classified into different categories. Like authorized dealer will be authorized dealer 1 and 2 and 3, money changers, full-fledged money changers, restricted money changers, all those things are there. But let us not get into that, because that will consume our another important time, and that is not very much important here. What is to be understood, that only authorized persons can do the forex transactions who have been authorized by the Reserve Bank of India, who have the license from Reserve Bank of India, and other residents will have to do the transactions with these authorized persons. Now I will discuss the FEMA current account transaction rules 2000, and there is a specific purpose for discussing this, because this I told you in the beginning that all current account transaction, unless and until they are restricted, they will be allowed. And please remember, this is a rule. It says FEMA rule, and I will make it clear. You may not find it everywhere, this clarification, that rules is, whenever you see rules, it means it has been issued by Government of India. Government of India, whenever makes any scheme or anything, that is known as rules, in case of forex transaction, of course. And Reserve Bank of India, when they issue guidelines, it will be called regulation. So this is FEMA rules, means it has been issued by Government of India. Now this rule governs current account transactions, all current account transactions which are to be done, which are to be restricted, which require specific permission, all have been included in this rule. Now this rule says that all transactions will be classified into three categories. Schedule 1, Schedule 2 and Schedule 3. Means this rule has 3 schedules inbuilt in it. Some transactions which are included in Schedule 1, and those transactions which are included in Schedule 1, they are prohibited transactions. Means the transactions which are part of Schedule 1 are prohibited transactions, will not be allowed by any authorized dealer or money changer or anybody else. Now let us come to Schedule 2. If transactions are part of Schedule 2, then prior permission from Government of India is required. Means transactions which are included in Schedule 2 of the current account transactions rules, transaction can be allowed only with the prior permission from Government of India. Now we are coming to Schedule 3. And here you will find there is no list at all. What does it mean? It means that if any transaction is not part of either Schedule 1 or Schedule 2, will be treated as Schedule 3 transaction. Any transaction which is not part of Schedule 1 or Schedule 2 will be treated as Schedule 3 transaction. And if a transaction is Schedule 3 transaction, then prior permission from Reserve Bank of India is required for doing the transaction. So everywhere permission is required. Schedule 1, no, it cannot be allowed. Schedule 2, prior permission from Government of India is required, and Schedule 3 transaction, permission from Reserve Bank of India is required. Now what Reserve Bank of India has done, they have delegated their certain powers, not all powers, certain powers up to a threshold limit to authorized dealers, money changers and offshore banking units. And these entities can do the transaction on behalf of, can allow the transaction on behalf of Reserve Bank of India up to a given threshold. This is the framework of current account transaction rules, and under current account transaction rule, everybody is allowed to do the current account transactions up to $2,50,000. Whoever it may be, he is allowed to do current account transactions up to $2,50,000, and it will be allowed by authorized dealers, money changers and offshore banking units. This $2,50,000 is a annual limit and cumulative annual limit. Means small fractions, even if you do the transaction, the maximum transaction you can do is up to $2,50,000. Another important restriction is that foreign exchange will not be released for any kind of transactions with residents of Nepal and Bhutan. Now, the purpose of discussing this current account transaction rule was that if we go beyond this, you will discuss liberalized remittance scheme. And please remember that when we discuss liberalized remittance scheme, that is a different regulation, different from FEMA current account transaction rules 2000. There is a specific scheme which is called liberalized remittance scheme. That scheme is available only for resident Indians. That scheme is available only for resident individuals. That scheme is not available to corporations, entities, HUFs, partnership, firms or LLPs. They cannot do the transaction under liberalized remittance scheme. If they have to do current account transactions, they can do the transaction under Schedule 3. But to facilitate to ease the transaction requirements of individuals, the government has come, Reserve Bank of India has come out with a scheme which is called Liberalized Remittance Scheme. Liberalized Remittance Scheme. As I told you, this is a scheme designed to facilitate the foreign currency requirement of resident individuals. It is not available to HUFs, corporates, partnerships, trusts, anybody except individuals. Only individuals. Please remember, this is very, very important. Of course, if others can do the transactions, they will have to go for transaction and current account transaction rules, schedule 3. Now this scheme involves both types of transactions, means this scheme allows for individuals both kind of transactions, current account transactions also and capital account transactions also. All current account transactions by individuals can be allowed under this scheme. I will discuss the purpose going forward. But capital account transactions, only 5 types of capital account transactions are allowed under this scheme. So what is this scheme? This scheme allowed every resident individuals an entitlement up to $250,000 every financial year involving current account and capital account transactions. All current account transactions can be allowed, but only 5 capital account transactions are allowed under this scheme. Now, which transactions are allowed under liberalized remittance scheme? Current account, all current account transactions, the purpose have been listed here: travel expenses. If you want to gift or donate, you are free to do. Immigration, you can, whatever expenditure you are incurring on immigration, you can do. Educational expenses, you can do. Medical treatment, maintenance of your relatives if they are staying outside India. And finally, it says that any other current account transaction can be allowed under liberalized remittance scheme for individuals. And this is the current account purpose, meaning that all current account transactions for individuals will be allowed up to $250,000 per annum per financial year, including for minors. Now, if you see the slide, I have listed 3 purposes in red. They are immigration, educational expense and medical treatment. The scheme says that if any resident needs more than $250,000 in a particular financial year, that can also be allowed for these 3 purposes, not for other purposes, only for these 3 purposes. These 3 purposes are immigration, educational expense and medical treatment. But 2 conditions will have to be met. What are those 2 conditions? The applicant who needs foreign exchange more than $250,000 will have to provide a documentary evidence relating to the requirement of foreign exchange. Suppose a student wants to remit tuition fee of more than $250,000. If he is able to produce a documentary evidence to the authorized dealer, and if authorized dealer is satisfied with the documentary evidence provided by the applicant, authorized dealer can allow remittance of more than $250,000 without referring to Reserve Bank of India. Because Reserve Bank of India has ultimate powers. If you refer the matter, you will get permission. But without referring to Reserve Bank of India, you can allow more than $250,000 for these 3 purposes if the applicant provides documentary evidence and if the authorized dealer is satisfied with the evidence. Now we are coming to capital account transactions. Only 5 types of capital account transactions are allowed under liberalized remittance scheme. And these purposes are opening of foreign currency account abroad and keeping your money outside India. If you want, you can open a foreign currency account outside India and you can keep your money outside India. You can purchase property outside India with the money by remitting money from here. You can make investment in equity, debt, mutual fund and venture capital fund outside India. You can set up wholly owned subsidiaries and joint ventures outside India. And this is applicable, please remember, this is applicable for individuals. And you can extend loans to your relatives who are non-resident Indians. Now, some precautions I will talk. That in case of number 3 and 4, investment and setting up wholly owned subsidiaries, the rules and regulations related to overseas direct investments are also applicable. And so while remitting money under LRS also, you will have to look at, you have to give a glance to ODI rules also, and if there are some formalities prescribed like ODI form, then that will also have to be submitted to Reserve Bank of India when prescribed. The second thing is capital account transactions should be done with too much precautions. Capital account transactions should be done only for those individuals, those persons who are maintaining current account with bank for the last 1 year, means those customers who are at least 1 year old with the bank. Capital account transactions should be allowed only for those customers. If the customer is having a relationship with less than 1 year, then you will have to do enhanced due diligence about the customer, and then you can allow transactions. Second thing is that capital account transactions, if anybody is undertaking and if he is seeking a credit support from you, it is not to be allowed. Means no credit support, no credit facility will be allowed to anybody to undertake a capital account transaction. The simplest example I can give you, that if somebody wants to purchase a property outside India and if he comes to you and asks for a loan facility, credit facility, that has not to be allowed. Here only I would like to mention that this restriction is only for capital account transaction. No such restriction is applicable in case of current account transactions. So banks are free to provide credit support for anybody for undertaking current account transaction, but credit support is not available for undertaking capital account transactions. Capital account transactions are not to be done for any country which is under the blacklist, which is the non-cooperative country as per the definition of FATF, which maintains the list of those countries. Financial Action Task Force, which maintains the list of those countries who are not cooperating in implementing money laundering and terrorist financing activities. So these are the restrictions applicable on capital account transactions, and this has to be kept in mind by those persons who are dealing in foreign exchange. Now I will discuss some important aspects from the bank's point of view, from the point of view of the desk officer, from the point of view of branches. Three, you can say document, three process has to be followed by anybody who is releasing foreign exchange. The first is declaration. What is this declaration? Declaration requirement is in Foreign Exchange Management Act. Act says that anybody who wants to purchase, who wants to get released foreign exchange will have to declare the purpose for which foreign exchange is required. And authorized dealer should not release any kind of foreign exchange unless and until declaration is provided by the applicant, and declaration will be related to purpose. And this declaration is submitted to authorized dealer in the format called A2, Form A2. This is a Reserve Bank of India designed format, and declaration has to be taken in Form A2. But certain relaxations are there in this regard. Relaxation is that if the transaction of remittance is up to $25,000, then Form A2 is not mandatory, means that declaration will have to be taken, but declaration can be in any format, can be on plain paper, and that can be sufficient for the authorized dealer to act upon that declaration. Means if the transaction is more than 25,000, Form A2 declaration. If the transaction is up to $25,000, either A2 or plain paper, whatever is the choice of customer. Now this declaration of purpose is supplemented by two more declarations. Declaration that the applicant is, while doing this transaction, is abiding by all the rules and regulations under Foreign Exchange Management Act. He is not breaching any foreign exchange management rules and regulations. Why this is? Because ultimate responsibility of transaction is with the customer, but this does not give authorized dealer right to abdicate his own responsibility of ensuring due diligence, of doing due diligence, ensuring that correct transactions are taking place, process is being followed. Ultimate responsibility is with the customer. Third supplementary declaration is that under the applicant will have to declare that they are not breaching the limit prescribed under liberalized remittance scheme even through other authorized dealers. You do not know. If somebody comes to you, you do not know whether he has done any transaction with other authorized dealers. So he has to declare that during the financial year he has not done enough transactions so that this transaction, including this transaction, is going to breach the limits of $250,000. And please remember, anybody breaching this anybody breaching this limit will have to face penalties or will have to bring back the excess money which has gone out of India. So implications are grave. The second important aspect is of permanent account number. permanent account number is a must for any remittance, or you can say any forex transaction, because just as a reminder that all forex transaction will involve remittance of money, whether you are importing or whether you are remitting. So permanent account number is must. Now questions comes, if somebody doesn't have permanent account number, what is to be done? The answer is simple. Remittance will not be allowed. There is no provision for exemption from permanent account number. If anybody wants to do remittance, he will have to go to Income Tax Department, obtain permanent account number if he is not having, and then come with the permanent account number to authorized dealer for remittance. Even if the remittance is of $100, $50, the permanent account number is a must. There is no exception, no exemption. Now third part I am coming to, that is called due diligence, and this is a very important aspect of forex transaction. When I say due diligence, what does it mean? And I will emphasize three areas. Due diligence related to beneficiary. Please identify the beneficiary. Please know his identity, his address, his whereabouts. So due diligence about beneficiary. Due diligence about the remitter. Due diligence about the beneficiary. Means the person who is sending money, you have to identify him. You must know who is it, whether he lives, his address proof, and his permanent account number. Then beneficiary, who is going to get the benefit of this remittance, means where this remittance is going, who is he? Is he linked to any sanctioned entity? Is he linked to any terrorist activity? All these will have to be ensured. So due diligence on remitter, due diligence on beneficiary, and third due diligence has to be done about the purpose. For what purpose this money is going, and this can be done through declaration. Declaration will have to be given. An authorized dealer should go through the declaration and ensure that the purpose mentioned by the applicant is allowable. Means the authorized dealer should ensure that the purpose is for which remittance is being made is allowed under different rules of Foreign Exchange Management Act. Now beyond this due diligence, one extra responsibility lies on authorized dealer, and the act says that authorized dealer should ensure that only genuine transactions are allowed. And when I say genuine transaction, it means that authorized dealer should ensure that they are not allowing any kind of money laundering, they are not allowing any kind of tax evasion, they are not allowing any kind of round tripping, they are not allowing any kind of terrorist financing. And how to do this? Reserve Bank of India is silent on this, and therefore your due diligence should be perfect, so that you do not get into trouble later on if the transaction allowed by you is proved after 2 years or 1 year that the transaction was a terrorist financing transaction was a money laundering transaction. So this has to be ensured very punctually, in a very sincere manner. Now we are coming to reporting. Reporting is not the responsibility of authorized, branches now. Reporting is being done by the bank itself, all banks, not only our bank. Reserve Bank of India has said that only consolidated reporting will be done. So all banks, head offices, they consolidate every day's transaction of LRS and they report this to Reserve Bank of India on T+1 basis. When I say T+1 basis means today's transaction should be reported to Reserve Bank of India by tomorrow 5 o'clock, and this is done centrally.